All right, guys, it's that time of the week 5 in the NFL, and I am giving my predictions, who I think is going to win, what are my best bets, what would I take. It could be the over and the under, who would win straight up. But this is a tough week, a lot of close games that Vegas is, the lines are just really close, so Vegas is saying there's going to be a lot of close games. But there's some teams I like that weren't so good for the whole season as my best bets, but we'll get to that later. But here are my week 5 picks for this week 5 in the NFL. First matchup, we have to go all the way to England, and that is the Jets versus the Vikings, with the Vikings being favored 2.5 and the over-under being 40 points. Now, I don't understand this line at 2.5. It just boggles my mind. It's, I don't like 2.5, but regardless, how the Jets looked against the Broncos, I would think the Vikings would have a bigger number, be favored by a bigger number, that is. But I don't know. Maybe obviously Vegas knows something I don't. But I think the main point here is what Aaron Rodgers are we going to get? The Jets look terrible against the Broncos. The Broncos are an awful team. They have one of the worst offenses in the league. I think the Patriots are just worse than them, and they're the second worst. And the teams that only the Jets beat were the Patriots and the Titans. And Titans just won their first game last week, and the Patriots won their first game in the beginning of the year. So two terrible teams with a combination of only 2 wins. So that's not a good look for the Jets. Aaron Rodgers is having a decent year, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick. But what Rodgers are going to get? You can get the Rodgers who lost to the Broncos. I know they had bad weather, but come on, that's not an excuse. The Broncos can't put up no points. Or you're going to get vintage Rodgers when he looked against the Patriots, and how he looked against the Titans. So I don't know what Rodgers we're going to get. It's a coin flip what Rodgers you're going to get. The defense is still the best thing about this team. They're 5th in points allowed. They're second in yards per game allowed. Excuse me. And they're 20th against the run, which is not really great. But they're second against the pass, which is, in this league, you want to be better in the pass than the rush. Will McDonald's a beast. The guy has 5 sacks and, basically a sack a game. So he's really stepping up with, the injuries they've had and Reddick being not showing up at all. And they're 10th in turnover margin. So they're getting the ball and they're turning it over and putting it back in Rodgers' hands and Breece Hall's hands and Allen's hands. Which, by the way, Breece Hall and Allen look like they're doing split carries, which is, I think all right for the most part. Allen looks like the part, like a good running back. And the last, so far the Jets are 2-2 against the spread, and they're 0-1 as a money line dog. So that's something you got to pay attention. And the Vikings only being favored 2.5 is a bit puzzling because they beat the Packers in Lambeau, which is a great accomplishment. The Packers in Lambeau are very hard to defeat. The Green Bay made a great effort to come back and win that towards the fourth quarter, so maybe the Vegas is worried about that. But, Sam Darnold's looking like a top 5 MVP candidate. The guys barely turned the ball over. It's 11 touchdowns, only 3 picks. They're averaging almost 30 points a game. The Vikings as well, the offense. Addison is back. Addison's looking like a Swiss Army knife, running the ball, catching the ball for touchdowns. So just adding more and more dimensions to this offense. And they have a great running attack with Jones and Ty Chandler. They're putting up great numbers, over 400 yards rushing with the both of them. So, and Aaron Jones is having a great year since his injury from Green Bay. But a lot of people probably don't realize this. They have the worst pass defense in the league. So they're getting after the quarterback and sacking them, but they're having some leaky coverage here. Now, playing against Love and Love going almost game busters on the 400 yards passing and 4 touchdowns, maybe that didn't help at all. But they're getting to the quarterback, which is the main point. And the main point is they're getting the quarterback with the new acquisitions they got in the offseason. being Cashman, Ginkle, and Jonathan Greenland. Jonathan Greenland has 4 sacks, and Cashman has, I think, a couple sacks himself. And Pat Jones, their originally guy they drafted, he has 5 sacks so far. So these guys are getting after the quarterback. And some betting trends with the Vikings. The Vikings are 4-0 against the spread. They're second in takeaways, by the way, and they're fourth in turnover margin. So I don't understand this line why it's 2.5. I know they have a terrible pass defense, but Rodgers, you never know what version you're going to get to him, and they're getting after the quarterback, and the Jets don't have their right tackle. He's out. So I don't know what to take with this game. I'm not going to take the spread. If I was going to choose this game, I would have take the Minnesota money line in London. I think they do just enough to hold off the Jets, and they get to Aaron Rodgers just enough to win the game. In our next matchup, we have 2 teams that I thought, I wouldn't be excited for this game a couple weeks ago, but now that they're showing some good offensive, scoring, and they're getting it together, this matchup looks like it'll be a fun game to watch. And that is the Panthers versus the Bears, with the Bears being favored by 4, covering the number by 4, and the over-under being 41 points. Panthers look rejuvenated with Andy Dalton. He is putting life back in this team. Chuba Hubbard's having his great year, back-to-back 100-yard receiving, and Deontay Johnson's looking like a number 1 wide receiver. And the new kid on the Panthers, Leggett, forgive me if I'm saying the wrong, he looks all right too. He had a decent game last week. Caleb Williams gets another win against the Rams last week. I know it's the Rams, but the Rams did beat 49ers, so it wasn't that an easy of a win. And they got back to the run game. Swift looked really good. He had a good amount of rushing yards and passing yards. I believe going over 120, 130 yards he went in combined yards. So that's what they need. They need to get back to the rushing team and stop having Caleb Williams throw like 50 times like they did before the Rams game, because that's not you're not going to win that way. So 2 teams that are pitted together, knowing now what they should do and could do as a team, and now they meet each other. Caleb Williams is 2-0 at home, beating the Rams in Tennessee. So the wide receivers are finally healthy. I think they'll get the on the field for the first time, being Keenan Allen, the rookie Adonze, and DJ Moore. So that's good news for Caleb. Bears. Between the Panthers and Bears, the Bears lead the series 8-4, with Bears winning the last year 16-13. So not that good of a win last year, but still win 16-13. And the Bears defense is probably the best thing about this team. They're still the Bears. They really focus on defense. That's been the Bears' way since the 1985 Bears. So they're 8th against the pass, which is really great since Andy Dalton's been slinging it pretty well. And some trends here, some betting trends, and just some trends in general in the matchups between these 2 teams. The Bears are 2-1-1 against the spread so far this year. They're also 6-0 at Soldiers Field against the Panthers, so that's something to watch for. And the Bears are 2-0 against the spread at home. So when they're at home, they're covering spreads, which is something you want to see as a bettor. But like I said, this defense. By the way, this it has a little this game has a little substance to it, since it was the Panthers who jumped to get the Bears pick, and they trade them a lot of draft picks to go draft Young. And how does that look now of Young being so not so great? I mean, I'm not going to throw the kid under the bus just yet, but it looks like he might be a bust. But with that, what they got from that trade is a haul like nobody's business. From that trade, they drafted Caleb Williams, Wright, their offensive tackle, Stevenson, and Torrey Taylor. And all those guys are reliable, great starters. So what a haul they got from that trade from Young. To get with the Panthers here, the Panthers, great offense, so far since Dalton taking over, but the defense is still terrible. They lost Brown, one of their best defenders, who gets after the quarterback. He's out for the year, I believe. They're 1-3 against the spread so far. They're 1-1 against the spread on the road, so that's not terrible. But they're allowing 32 points a game, which is that's pretty bad. Over 30 points a clip is terrible for any team. Shaq Thomas, one of the other linebackers, he's out for the year, so that's not really great for them. And like I said, their best defender, Derek Brown, the guy's out, so that was a big blow when he went. The only thing you could pull away from this is their offense, and since Dalton jumped on. Dalton, 539 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. The last 2 games they played the Panthers, they put up 60 points, so that's really great. They're really getting the overs are hitting with them the last 2 games, and they're getting close to covering the number. Like I said, Hubbard's had back-to-back 100 yards rushing, and Deontay Johnson is looking like the old Deontay Johnson from the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that being said, I just can't trust this Panthers defense. It is awful. They're losing a lot of guys. I know they're having a lot of guys having to step up. I know the Bears' offense is not looking too great, but they did rely on the running game, and I think that has changed quite a bit. I think Mercedes Lewis, the veteran tight end on that team, actually said something to the Chicago Bears coaches, from what I read. So I think the Bears stick with the running game, and their defense holds Dalton back enough that the Bears win and cover the number. So give me the Bears in Soldiers Field, Chicago, winning and covering the number. Here goes another game that I don't understand the line. The Bengals versus the Ravens, with the Ravens being a 2.5 favorite, and the over-under being 49 points. The Ravens just blasted the Bills. They ran over them it would look like it looked like a NFL football team versus a JV high school football team. That's how good King Henry and Lamar Jackson did rushing the ball. They're taking shape. They know now they're a big running team. Just stick with the run. Henry leads the league in rushing now with that 200-yard rushing game he had. They have a good passing catch running back in Hill, so that's a good change from Henry. When Henry's out, they could rely on Justice Hill catching the ball and getting a few yards that they need. So that's great. Put him out maybe out to wide receiver as well. They have 2 solid tight ends in Mark Andrews and Likely. They're not putting up good numbers like I would use. Some of us would expect, especially us fantasy players, but they're still doing good. It's a good tight end combo. So. And they also have Zach Flowers, so he's a good, reliable wide receiver. Lamar Jackson's not going to, always throw a lot for passing yards like he's done in the past. He's had some 300-yard games, but, I think they're going to stick with this run because it's showing that it's really, it's just winning games for them. The Baltimore's 3-1 the last 4 games against the Bengals, so, the history's not looking good here for the Bengals. They lead the leagues. The Ravens lead the league in yards per play at 6.8, so they're getting a lot of yards on a play, which results in first downs, obviously. And they're covering the spread against the Bengals 4 out of 5 last games. So the last 5 games they played the Bengals, the Ravens have covered the spread 4 out of 5 times. But their defense is something to desire still. It's not the defense of the Ravens we know. Their secondary is not so great. But the only thing the secondary can hold their head up on is that they only allowed 4 passing touchdowns. But you could pass on them big time, but they're only allowing 4 passing touchdowns so far. So they must be doing really great in the red zone. Bengals are putting up some good numbers as well. They have a terrible record. They just won the first game against the Panthers. Panthers still put up 24 points against them, and that's the Achilles heel of the Bengals. Their defense is just garbage. They can't rush the quarterback at all, so a lot of teams are having a lot of time throwing the ball on them. So, that's not good, and opposing teams are putting 26 points against them as well. But they have a good passing attack. They're 7th ranked in passing. And they're 23rd in rushing. They need to use more Brown, more than Zach Moss. Zach Moss, I think they should use as just a goal line back. But Joe Burrow is one of the only 5 QBs averaging over 70% of pass completions. So that is really good. He's looking like, Joe Burrow, he's looking like the real deal again. And him and Chase have a great connection. Please keep on passing to Chase as a fantasy owner from him. Keep on passing to him. But they got the 25th ranked rush defense, which is not good. 25th ranked rush defense against the number 1 ranked offense attack. So that is not good for the Bengals. But they're 7th in passing, so I think they could pass on the Ravens secondary, which, as I said, is not as good as it once was, because I truly think they missed McDonald, their old defensive coordinator, who is now the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. You can pass against them. So I would say that with this line being 2.5, I don't understand, since the Ravens, it's in Baltimore. I just don't understand why it's 2.5 after. I mean, it's not in Baltimore. I'm sorry. It's in Cincinnati. Forgive me about that. It's in Cincinnati. So, but the Bengals just blew out the Buffalo Bills. And the Bengals covered the Panthers, but the Panthers still put 24 points against them. So with all that being said, my favorite bet in this game would be the over 49 points. I think this is going to be just 2 teams go back and forth, scoring on each other left and right. I think this matchup has a chance of being in the 60 points range. So I think that's the best bet for this game. If I had to choose a side, I would choose the Ravens. I know it's in Cincinnati, but I just can't trust the Bengals defense at all. They're not getting at their quarterback, and their secondary is something left to be desired. So I think this game goes over 49 points easy. And if I had to pick a team, I'd pick the Ravens to win. But give me the over in the Ravens versus Cincinnati game. So in this matchup, Vegas is predicting another close game, that being the Bills versus the Texans in Houston, with Bills being the favorite by 1 point. I'm seeing it about getting up to 2 points in some other books. But, with these teams, I should say, they both haven't really beaten anyone. And the teams they play that are worth any salt, they both lost. The Bills get blown out by the Ravens. I mean, they just got laughing stock because the rushing defense looked terrible. And the Texans got blown out by the Vikings, and they barely beat the Jaguars last week with like less than a minute fourth quarter touchdowns. And the Jaguars haven't won a game yet. So it's going to be very interesting to see what these teams do. The Bills, they were exposed by the Ravens, unbelievably exposed by the Ravens. Henry, basically 200 yards rushing. If you add in his receiving yards, he had over 200 total yards. Big loss for them. Von Miller was suspended for 4 games. Now, Von Miller doesn't start, but he gets like over 30% of snaps, and he has 3 or 4 sacks, so he's getting to the quarterback, and he's going to be gone. So somebody's going to have to pick up that production in those QB hurries. So I believe that's something to watch for. Shakir, the wide receiver for the Bills, is questionable in the game. It's an ankle injury, so that's also something to really watch out for. They need his speed. They just have a lot of guys questionable, the Bills. They have Shakir, Ed Oliver, and Bernard. So there's some good quality players that are beat up. So even if they play, they're beat up. And for this matchup between the Bills and the Texans, the Bills have outscored the Texans 119 to 86 points. So the Bills are pitting a bunch of points against the Texans. And in general, the Bills are 2-2 against the spread, and Allen has only been sacked 5 times, and he's had no turnovers, no interceptions, and he hasn't lost a fumble. He's fumbled, but he hasn't lost a fumble. So that is really great. And Allen is a top 5, top 3 MVP candidate right now. And they're one of the best offenses. They're second in scoring. So, the Texans are definitely going to have to watch this. And I believe, I forgot to say the over-under. Right now, currently the over-under for this game is 47. So they're predicting a solid, high-scoring game. The Texans are 3-2 versus the Bills in the last 5 matchups. So, that's something, even though the Bills have put up more points. But right now, the Texans have a winning record against the Bills in the last 5 games. Against the spread, it's not good for the Texans. They're 0-3-1 against the spread. That's not good for anybody who's betted on them. And they haven't won a game against the spread yet. So, like I just said, so that's bad for bettors. Not putting that much points. You'd think they put up more points as a team with all that offense, firepower they have, but they're not. They're averaging 16.7 points a game, which is 26th in the NFL. And they're allowing the 3rd most passing touchdowns, which is another bad stat. So, the defense is not so gloom and gloom. I know they just said about allowing the most passing touchdowns, but they're allowing the 5th fewest yards per game in passing. And their pass defense is good for 4th best in yards allowed. So they have a good secondary. They've invested a lot of time and money into that secondary. They have a good D-line in Anderson, Barnett, Hunter, and Edwards. That's a really good defensive line. Barnett coming out of nowhere when he got released from Philadelphia Eagles. He's putting up some good numbers for them. And, Nico's leading the league in receiving yards. So he's getting the ball, but you like to see Tank Dell, which he's questionable to keep that in mind. Tank Dell is questionable. And Diggs might want a revenge game against the Bills. He had a good game against the Vikings, but he might want a bigger game against the Bills with him and Allen's relationship. So this game, and the Texans are missing Mixon, which they haven't been the same since missing Mixon. None of their backup running backs are looking good. Pierce is not playing. It's Akers. So I'm not sure who to pick in this game whatsoever. If I had to choose, if Mixon is not playing for the Houston Texans, I would take the Bills money line. Then, like I said, the number's -1 right now, but with Bills being the favorite. But if Mixon's not playing, Joe Mixon, I might take the Buffalo. I like the over as the best play for this game. I think this team will get to 50, 52 points around there. I think that the Texans will, I think they want to show people that they're one of the elites, and I think the Bills want to show everybody that they're not the joke that the Ravens made them out to be during that game. So I like the best play for this, the number to go over 47 points. But if I had to choose, if Mixon's out, I'm choosing the Bills. But if Mixon's in, I think I may take any points I can get with the Texans. So I know it's a little wishy-washy, but this is how you got to do when you're betting. You got to take all the facts into it. But if I had a strong play, the strong play would be my strongest play for this, I should say, is the over 47 against the Bills and Texans. Well, this game is not going to be fun to watch and will not be pretty. We have the Colts, who may be out with Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor, against the winless, hopeless, debacle Jacksonville Jaguars, with the Jaguars being favored by 2.5. I believe the over and under is 46 points. So this game, good for the Colts for having good backup if Richardson doesn't play. Joe Flacco, I'll say it again, teams that have back quarterbacks who get hurt need good backup quarterbacks. Are you listening, Miami Dolphins? You guys have terrible backups since Tua's been out, and since he's been out, you guys have been terrible. But good on the Colts for having a good backup in Joe Flacco. So, like I said, Richardson and Taylor are questionable. I think Taylor has a better chance of missing the game with an ankle injury. It was a good win against the Steelers. Steelers has one of possibly the best defense in the league. I believe the Broncos have the best defense in the league, but Steelers got to be number 2, number 3. But there was a good win by them. Flacco had 2 touchdowns, no turnovers, so good for him. They got a good offensive line. They have good weapons in Downs, Pierce, and Pittman. I think Pittman has a good game this game. Watch him for player props. I believe he will go over his player prop prediction because Flacco was giving him the ball. But losing Taylor is kind of a hurt to the offense. He had 72 rushing yards for 349 yards and 4 touchdowns. So it's a lot losing that production. And Sermon, the backup, that guy was cut by the Eagles. He was in practice squads for a bit. So I don't know. I have not that much faith in Sermon, even though they have a good offensive line. Also, the Buckner, their defensive tackle, their star defensive tackle, is out for this game too for the Colts, so that's not good. But the Colts are 3-1 against the spread so far this season, so they're keeping up and covering some spread, so that's good for any better. And they're 0-1 against the spread on the road, which is something to watch as they're going to Jacksonville. Jacksonville. Not a lot to say about them. They played a tough game last week against the Texans. They had the lead. Houston came back and won in the last minute of the fourth quarter. They're pitting up, they pit up some good fights. They, besides the game blown out by the Bills, they 18-13 against the Browns and 20-17 against the Dolphins when Dolphins had Tua. So they're putting up some good fights. Nothing's come up to a win. They've been kind of a debacle team. You have to start asking, is Trevor Lawrence a just above average quarterback, not the phenom that people thought he was? The Jaguars, they're 1-9 in the last 10 regular season games. 1-9 in the last 10 regular season games. A lot of people will be fired with that kind of resume, but Peterson still has his job at this moment. But they're 9-1 over their past 10 home games against the Colts. So the last 10 games they've played the Colts, they're 9-1. That means they basically own the Colts when the Colts come to Jacksonville. Don't know why, because before Trevor Lawrence, it's not like they had a good quarterback player, good, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't go back as much as Trevor Lawrence, but before Trevor Lawrence. But, even with Trevor Lawrence, they beat him 9-1. They're only averaging 15 points a game. For offense, just a god-awful terrible. And their defense is allowing 27 points a game, which is 30th in the ranked 30th in the whole league. And they won the worst passing offense, like I said, ranked 30th or 29th. I know, it's a tough game. It's a tough game. Jaguars are favorite. It's hard to understand why, because the Colts had a solid, good win last week, and the Jaguars, they put up a valiant fight, but they still lost. Jaguars are 2-2 against the spread, so they are covering spreads, even though they're winless. So if I had to choose this game, which I am not going to bet this game at all, and the over-under being 46 points, I would choose I would probably take the under in this game as a strong play. But if I had to choose a team, who would win this game, I would go with the Jaguars minus 2.5. They own the Colts in Jacksonville, and I think the hot seats on Peterson, and they need a solid win here. They just need a win to feel good, to feel like bring the morale in that locker room. And so give me the under in this game, 46. Try to get at 46.5 if you can, or 47. And if I had to take a team, I would take the Jaguars money line or them to cover the 2.5. Well, guys, we have another snooze fest of a game, and this may take the cake. Two teams that are god-awful in offense, one missing their quarterback and one just has no offense. That being the Dolphins versus the Patriots, with the Patriots being favored by 1 point, and this is by far the worst game on the NFL slate today. and the over-under being 36.5. So they're not expecting any much points being scored in this game, Vegas. So, like I said, this is just two teams. It's terrible versus awful. It's awful versus terrible. Both teams were blown out last week. Patriots blown out by the 49ers, and the Dolphins getting their doors blown off by the Tennessee Titans. That, Rudolph was the quarterback for that, playing for that team. So, let's just get a little detailed here. Brissett, the guy is a backup. He's a backup in this league, but they want to protect Drake May for the time being. So he's below average. At least he has more touchdowns and interceptions. That's not saying much because he has 2 TDs passing and only 1 pick. Take that for what it is. They have a decent running back duo in Stevenson and Gibson. That's probably the one thing they hang their offensive hat on. Hunter Henry too, who's not a bad tight end. But Stevenson, I think, is fumbled in every game. He has 4 fumbles. And I have him as a fantasy owner. So, believe me, I'm disgusted. So they're talking about giving Gibson the ball more because Stevenson can't hang on the ball whatsoever. And, Stevenson was looking pretty good for them, not too shabby for what they got. And Gibson's looked like a good passing running back. So, if you're a fantasy owner, maybe you have Gibson, that's good for you. Not good for the Patriots in general. Some other, things you can maybe possibly pull from the Patriots is Keon White has 4 sacks. That looks like that was a solid draft pick by them. There's not much to pull from this. They're the worst passing team in the league. They only average 13 points a game, and they're 2-3 in the last home games against the Dolphins. I guess that's a positive. In the last 3 games, they've won 2, playing the Dolphins at Gillette Stadium. So that's really probably the only thing you could pull from the Patriots. And they're 1-2-1 against the spread. The Dolphins, dumb organization, not having a good backup for Tua. I've said this multiple times. I'm sure you guys heard it. Stupid. Not having a good quarterback for Tua, because the guy is prone to concussions. He has a bad history with them, and you have Skylar Thompson as a backup and some guy Boyle or Doyle, and you had to go get Tyler Huntley, the guy and he doesn't even know the playbook yet. So there's that. Here's a good stat for the Dolphins. If you want to bet the Dolphins have gone 7-3 against the Pats in the last 10 games, probably with Tua though. The Dolphins though without Tua are 5-10. 5-10 without Tua. So not looking good, Dolphins. Stupid mistakes on you. They're 0-4 against the spread so far this season, and they're 0-1 against the spread on the road. A-chain guy, they're just stacking the box. They don't really care about the quarterback play. So he only has 53 yards for 165 yards. And Hill without Tua has been lackluster. 17 receptions for 217 yards and only 1 touchdown. So with that being said, this game is awful. It's going to be boring. I'm not going to bet it at all. I feel sorry for their fan bases. But, if I had to choose this game, if I had to bet it, I would take the under 36.5. If you could get it at 37.5, take it. These teams, I think it's going to be a lot of back and forth and nothing's going to happen. But if I had to choose a team, if I had to choose one, I would take the Patriots at home. Maybe their defense could cause some turnovers against the bad quarterback play by the Dolphins. But for this game, this terrible, boring game, give me the under 36.5. Well, in this game, we have the first placed Washington Commanders versus the crappy, lonely Browns. If you'd have told me Washington would have been in first place, I'd be like, wow, you're doing some good drugs. Because I thought they would be in rebuilding mode right now. But with Jane Daniels, they don't need no rebuilding. So with this game, Washington is the favorite by 3.5, and the over-under is 43.5 as well. So as I said, Jane Daniels, by the way, he's looking like what the Browns wanted out of Watson. So Jaden Daniels looks like he is Jaden Daniels looks like he is Watson 2.0. Don't forget, Watson was a great quarterback for the Texans, and he just fell off the earth when he got sent to the Browns. But it'd be great. This is actually a small, nice little challenge for Jaden Daniels. Now, he had a great win against the Cardinals, but the Cardinals can't get after the quarterback. So Jaden Daniels had a lot of time to do what he wanted and pick apart the Cardinals' defense. So with that, they are going to play against a defense that does like to blitz a lot. The Browns like to throw a lot of crazy blitzes at you, so I would like to see how he react to that. He's still got Myles Garrett there causing havoc, so he has to keep an eye on him. So I believe this will be a slight challenge to Jaden Daniels. Like I said, the Cardinals, who they blew out, they really don't have a defense that can get to the quarterback. Because of his great play, Daniels is just making everybody else exceed in front of him. Brian Robinson, the running back, he's having a great year, over 300 yards rushing. Scary Terry's looking decent, efficient. And Daniels is throwing over 80% of his passes that are being completed. Over 80% in completions. That is insane. And let's get his numbers out the way. He has a total of 1,115 total yards in rushing and passing, and 7 total touchdowns. And the Commanders are averaging 30 points a game, which is ranked 3rd in the whole NFL, and they're 3rd in rushing offense. So that's really great for a good combination with like I said, Robinson, Daniels, and Eckler, and I believe Nichols, the guy who just came out of nowhere last week. Defense has something still left to desire. They're allowing 25.5 points a game. So this is a good test for the Commanders. I think it could be a sneaky play by the Browns. We'll see. They really haven't beaten anybody. They've beaten the Cardinals and Bengals. Bengals, awful defense. Cardinals, awful defense. And the Giants. Giants almost beat them 21-18. If the Giants had Gano, a kicker, they do win that game. So, I'm not really buying Commander stock so much like everybody, because the 2 wins they've won were not teams with bad defenses, and that they would have lost the Giants if Gano did not get hurt, the kicker. So just keep an eye on that. That's why I think this game's going to be a lot closer than people think. It's not going to be a blowout win like with the Cardinals. If you want to bet the Commanders, another good stat for you is that the Commanders are 3-1 against the spread. Let's talk about the Browns, briefly here. Watson is terrible. He's robbing the Browns. That trade for the Texans. The Texans was basically highway robbery. But for this year, Watson 727 yards passing, 4 touchdowns, 3 picks. Not bad, not terrible. And he has 22 rushes for 117 yards. That's also a good thing you want to see. The Browns have no run game. Ford sucks. The whole rushing attack sucks. But they do get back Nick Chubb. They won't be getting Nick Chubb in this game. So that any hopes of anybody thinking Nick Chubb's going to get in this game, not going to happen. But they have a decent passing attack. They just need the quarterback to get the ball to them. They have Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, and Elijah Moore. That's not bad. There's worse passing receivers in this league groups than that. They just need to get the ball to their receivers, which Watson is not doing. Watson, their passing yards is 151 yards a game, which is one of the worst in the league, 29th ranked. They're only putting up 16.5 points a game, which is 27th ranked in the league. And their rushing yards are 94.8, which is 26th in the league. So not good at all. Like I said, I guess some things they can hang their hat on are mostly all on defense. Garrett has 4 sacks. Zadarius Smith has 2 sacks. They are missing Jordan Hicks. Jordan Hicks will be out this game, which is kind of a loss. Jordan Hicks was a good pickup for them. They're 1-3 against the spread. So, not much else you could pull from this. I guess a good thing you could pull in this last matchup in 2023, the Browns won the last matchup 24-10. So they did put up a good win against the Commanders, but that's without Jaden Daniels. So all that being said, I think the Browns are going to surprise people and keep this game close. But I think in the end, the Washingtons will wear them down with the rushing game. So give me Washington minus a 3.5, and just another loss for the Browns and another impressive win for the Commanders. And this crappy snooze fest of a game, another whoever gets the 20 points wins kind of game. We have the Raiders versus the overrated Broncos. The Broncos being favored by 2.5, with the over/under being 35.5. Ooh, that is terrible. I say the Broncos are overrated because I'm tired of seeing people praising them. Their offense is god awful. Bo Nix has 1 touchdown and 4 picks. What are you guys looking at? Tell me, because I feel like I'm missing it. They have no run game whatsoever. Sutton's their best weapon. But let's get a little more positivity for the Broncos. They possibly have the best defense. That's something said. They have probably the best secondary. So I think there's some arguments that people really like their defense. It's looking real good. The Broncos had a surprise win against the Jets, which the Jets, you guys should be wearing garbage bags over your head because of that loss, 10-9. And then they had a win against the Buccaneers, which was probably maybe one of the biggest upsets of the year, or will be one of the biggest upsets in the year. The Buccaneers were lighting teams up, and I know they're hurt, but then they only put 7 points against the Buccaneers, and they let the Broncos put 26 on them. I mean, that's just an awful look by the Buccaneers, which I think the whole NFC South are pretenders. I think one of those teams will make the playoffs, obviously, but they'll lose right away. Let's get besides that. They have really good defense. Bo Nix only has 4 sacks against him, so he's really avoiding the sacks, which is really good. That means he's elusive. He's getting out of the pocket. He's avoiding the sacks, so good for him. But, his passing offense is just terrible. He has 660 yards passing, 1 touchdown, 4 picks, with a QBR of 40. And their passing offense is ranked 159 yards, 0.8, and that's 27th ranked. And they're averaging 15.5 points a game, which is 28th ranked. And their rushing attack is 21st ranked. But they're only allowing 13.8 points. Again, their defense. Their defense is the best thing about this team. It's the only thing they have going on for themselves. Like I said, Javonte Williams has 40 carries for 129 yards. That's pretty awful. And Sutton has 15 receptions for 192 yards and only 1 touchdown. Really can't blame him because Nick's is not a good passer. But like I said, all their defense. They have 16 sacks on defense, which is second in the NFL. And they only allowed 3 touchdowns have been tossed on them. So only 3 touchdowns have been actually passed on them, that is really great numbers. This defense is looking like game busters. This is looking really good. With that, let's talk about the team that's going to be missing their best passing weapon, the Raiders. Devontae Adams wants to trade. He wants out. Who can blame him? With Gardner Minshew at quarterback and no running attack whatsoever. So he wants out. Crosby might miss this game either. He vowed that he was going to play this game, and he kills the Denver Broncos. I don't know what it is, but he has the Denver Broncos number. He has 13.5 sacks and 21 QB carries in the last 9 games he's played the Broncos. So this guy feasts off the Broncos. I have no idea why, but if he can't play, the Broncos are going to be super happy. And if he can't play, I could tell you where I'm going to lean. There's not much to pull from the Raiders, positively. They have some decent passing options, and Bowers, who's looked like a nice pickup in tight end, probably one of the best up-and-coming tight ends in the league, might be one of the best ones in the next couple of years. They still have Jacoby Myers, which is not terrible. But the Raiders have allowed the 5th most sacks. Is anybody blocking for this guy? The Raiders have to put up more than 20 points. They to beat this team, they have to put the 20 points. They have to put 20 points up. Gardner Minshew is 879 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 3 picks. And Bowers, like I said, one of the only positive guys out of this team. He has 216 yards on 20 receptions. They have no run game. White is questionable, but I think the Raiders are arguably in the bottom 3. I think they are the bottom 3 rushing offenses. So it's just Gardner Minshew trying to toss to whoever he can. Staying away from this game. Staying away. I think the Broncos are going to hold them tough. The Raiders do have the better offense, but that's not saying much. So I'm not going to bet this game at all whatsoever. But if I had to bet, if you could find the number at 36 and a half, take the under on this game. But if I had to pick, I would probably take the overrated Broncos. I think maybe Bo Nix does enough with his legs to the Broncos get a game-winning field goal going up 3-0. Going up 3 points and covering the number. So staying away from this game, but if I had to choose, I would choose the under as my best play and the Broncos to cover 2.5, but I'm not so confident in that. So just stay away from this game. It's going to be boring. It's going to be awful. Stay away. Well, in this game, we have a potentially high-flying game. A lot of points could be scored, as the over-under is 50 points. We have the Cardinals versus the 49ers, with the 49ers being favored by 7.5. So they're predicting them to blow them out, which I think is looking like it. The Cardinals, I think, are falling back to earth. They're 1-3. I know they're putting up points, but Murray can't be Superman all the time. They had that nice win against the Rams. They put up 41 points. So, but I think that's the game Kupp got hurt. So, but they lost to the Lions 20-13. Valiant effort. But then they get their doors blown off by the Commanders 42-14. So with that being said, let's get into the numbers here. They can't sack the quarterback whatsoever. They just can't. They can't sack the quarterback. They're getting no pressure. They're 28th ranked in rush defense. Not really good for a team that has Mason. Mason is just killing it for the 49ers. But like I said, Kyle Murray's been great. The guy's been almost like Superman. He has 941 total yards, 6 touchdowns, and 1 pick. Marvin Harrison, looking like a good rookie. 243 yards receiving and 4 touchdowns. But the thing about him, he does not really get that much separation. So there's something to be left desired there. They really don't have a lot of guys who get separation. Wilson, too, is a tight catching, go up and grab it kind of guy like Harrison is. They're allowing 26.5 points a game, which is ranked 26th. But they're putting up 24 points a game, which is pretty decent, which is ranked 13th in the NFL. So, I think the Cardinals, they're going to put up a lot of overs, I think, and they will surprise teams if Murray gets hot. And Connor, which Connor is great, by the way. They have a good 1-2 punch with him, and I believe the other guy's name is Benson. James Conner, 293 yards rushing and 3 touchdowns with 64 carries. Excuse me. So they have a legit offense. Their tight end McBride hasn't been playing too much, but they can put up some numbers. So I think they can get some overs and they can get some coverage, but they're falling back to earth. 49ers, let's get to them. Purdy's looking like a top 10 MVP candidate. Hell, top 5 MVP candidate maybe. He's thrown for 1,130 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks, but he's been sacked 10 times. So keep an eye on that. Even though the Cardinals can't get to the quarterback whatsoever, he has been sacked 10 times. He is spreading the ball around. He has really good weapons in Jennings, Samuels, Ayuk, and Kittle. So 4 really great weapons right there. With Jennings, having a good year so far, leading the receiver. Mason, where this guy come from? I know CMC got hurt, and people thought maybe who's going to pick up the ball. But man, Mason has picked up the ball. 41 rushing attempts on 41 rushes for 447 yards and 3 touchdowns. Really great numbers. They're putting up almost 26 points a game, which is ranked 8th in the NFL. 271 yards passing, which is ranked 2nd in the NFL, and they're 8th in rushing. So this offense is potent, looking good, weapons everywhere, and they got a solid offensive line. And they got Fred Warner at defense. Their secondary is not good. You can pass on them. It's not the scary secondary that people were scared of, but their front seven, Bosa, Warner, really good. Still very scary to play them. Warner, 3 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions, and 1 pick six. So with that being said, like I said, Arizona could put up points and they could put some fear in you when they start getting rolling. And once Murray's rolling on all cylinders and being Superman, you got to watch out. He will avoid the sack from the 49ers, and he could possibly put up some points. So I believe that this game is going to be a 31-21 kind of game. So give me the 49ers covering the 7.5. I know it's a big number. A lot of big numbers like that haven't been covering. But the 49ers look like they're firing on all cylinders right now, and they're getting a lot of guys that are healthy. So but I think the Cardinals still put up some points against them. So give me like a 31-21 game. 49ers covering the 7.5 and the over. But I like my most confident bet is the 49ers covering the 7.5. All right. This game would have been pretty competitive if it were a couple weeks ago. But one team lost all their weapons to injuries, that being the Packers versus the Rams. Green Bay being favored by 3 and the over-under being 49 points. The Packers had a good fight against the Vikings. Vikings win in Lambeau, but looks like Jordan Love had to shake off some rust. He had 4 touchdowns, but he threw 3 picks, almost threw over 400 yards, but he had to shake off some rust in that game. And they had to get away from the running game a bit because they were down 28-7 in the second half, starting the second half. But I think that's what the Packers need to do. They need to get back to the run. They need to use Jacobs in the backup, the rookie, and just establish the run and let Jordan Love start picking them apart in the play action. And that because the Rams are not going to sack the quarterback. They do not get to the quarterback whatsoever, and they're not really good at stopping the run as well. And the Packers, they have the second ranked best rushing offense in the league, averaging 174 yards a game. So they just need to keep on relying on that. They're also 8th ranked in passing yards as well. So, Jordan Love is slinging it, and Malik Willis was doing all right in his stead. The Packers need their cornerbacks to be healthy too. Don't forget they lost to the Vikings because 2 of their corners were out, Alexander and I believe another starter, I just can't remember his name. So they need both their corners. Not going to really matter, I think, because the Rams are not going to have Naku and Cooper Kupp again. Tutu Atwell might get some good yards, but they need him. So maybe you want to use him on a player prop. The Packers are 2-2 against the spread, so that's not bad. And they're 0-2 straight up and against the spread when Jordan starts. So, they lose the Packers, and they lost to the Eagles, and they lost to the Vikings. And I guess a little negative here, some positives for the Rams, because the Packers are only the 3rd most passing touchdowns. So looks like you can pass on them. And they're 9th in allowing passing yards per game. So they're getting teams are getting chunks of plays against them when throwing the ball, which they're ranked 9th in. I guess something to say about the Rams here. There's not much to say. They had that good surprise win against the 49ers, which, a lot of people lost money on. Nobody had winning. They still don't have their best wide receivers, like I said. Their defense has allowed the 2nd most points in the league. They're last in yards per play on offense, so this is just terrible. They're 1-3 against the spread, but a positive, they're 1-0 against the spread at home, so that's something as they're playing in Los Angeles. But, Kyren Williams is looking good. Like Kyren Williams, pretty much the only weapon they have right now, 258 yards rushing and 5 touchdowns. Stafford still doing all right. He doesn't have his weapons, but he has 978 yards passing and only 2 touchdowns passing as well. And again, the Rams can't get after the quarterback, which is bad because Love has really good, solid group of wide receivers around him. Watson is probably not playing the game as he hurt himself last week. But they got Reed, Dobbs, and Kraft at tight end. So they have some solid, passing solid weapons in general. I think this is a bounce back game for the Packers. They lose to the Vikings at home. I think they want to keep up with the rest of the NFC North. They have to keep up the rest of the NFC North, and I think that's the biggest factor. They see the Lions winning. They beat the Seahawks. They see the Vikings. They see Detroit beating, going 3-1 against the Seahawks, and they see the Vikings undefeated, beating themselves, the Packers at home. So I think they know they have to keep up. So I think they get back to the rushing game. I like Jacobs with the anytime touchdown in this game, by the way. But most of all, give me the Green Bay Packers taking the points, -3, covering the points, that is. And I possibly like the over in this game, too. I think the Green Bay could put up 27, 24 points, maybe 30 points. But give me the Green Bay Packers covering the 3 points as my biggest play. And Josh Jacobs anytime touchdown. In this game, I think we have a potential good game. Seahawks on short rest, and the Giants getting more rest than playing Thursday against the Cowboys. So that is the Giants versus the Seahawks. We have the Seahawks being favored by 6.5, the second biggest spread, and the over-under being 43.5. Straight to the point, Neighbors might not be playing this game. If he doesn't play, I do not like this for the Giants. Let's just get that out of the way. He's been a great weapon for the Giants. Robinson too, but he's been the better factor there. I was surprised that Daniels is not doing too shabby. He has 881 yards passing and 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. That is not terrible. I thought he would have worse numbers than that, as he is possibly the worst quarterback in the NFC East. He is the worst quarterback in the NFC East. Never mind. Neighbors, like I said, they need him to be healthy to, I think, have a chance this game. 386 yards receiving on 33 receptions and 3 touchdowns. And like I said, Robinson, not too bad. A good second punch for the Giants. 26 receptions for 194 yards. The Giants, they're 2-2 against the spread, so they're covering some spreads, and they're 2-2 against the spread as underdogs. So they are pitting up decent numbers against the spread. One thing I have to worry about is that they scored the 4th fewest points this season, so there's something left to be desired too. I think Singletary needs to pick it up a little bit more. But the worst thing about the Giants is they can't stop the rush. They are, I think, possibly the worst rushing defense in the league. And Walker and Charbonnet is a good 1-2 punch for the Seahawks. So player prop wise, you might want to throw in a little Walker anytime touchdown. I know he had 2 last week, but this might work again against the Giants. The Seahawks, bad loss against the Lions. Lions had them up. I think they won by almost two touchdowns. They're really beat up on the defensive line, the Seattle Seahawks. They have no Baker, Murphy, the second, Williams, and Uusau. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. Are all questionable, and a lot of them might not play this game. If they do play, really great. Good on them. So Geno is killing it. Geno is, he has a lot of passing yards, but he only has 4 touchdowns. That's not so great. You want more touchdowns, especially because you have Metcalf, Lockett, Smith, and Fant, all these weapons. You would like to see more. Metcalf having a great year. I think he's almost at 400 yards receiving. And the Giants, with this game, I'm just trying to pull more things for the Giants. I think the best things that the defense might be spent from the Seahawks, and the Giants have had more rest. So this might be a classic game of a team getting more rest and more time to prepare for you, and with the other team, getting beat up on defense and they're having a bunch of injury problems on their defense, and they're not getting to the quarterback because of that. So if I had to choose this game, my best bet is I like the over 43.5. I think this is like a 27-20 game, or 24-20 game. I like Walker as an anytime TD for the Seahawks. But if Neighbors plays, now this is a little sneaky pick. If Neighbors plays this game, I like the Giants plus the 6.5. I think, like I said, Seattle is coming from a hard-fought game with Detroit. They're injured on the front seven, and they're getting less rest than the Giants. If Neighbors does not play, I like Seattle to cover the number. But I like the Walker anytime touchdown, the over better. But if I had to choose a team, I would like probably the Giants plus the 6.5 in this game. I think it's going to be a fun game, and then there might be an upset here. But, give me Walker anytime TD and give me the over 43.5. All right, in our Sunday night game, we have the classic game. These guys played each other a lot back in the 90s. Good rivalry. That Cowboys versus the Steelers, with the Steelers being in favor of 2.5. Another odd number. With the over and under being 44 points. Cowboys got a 1 win over the Giants. Not that great of a win. And the Steelers lost their first game to the Colts. Not a good loss, by the way. Colts don't really have, they had hurt players in that game. Cowboys, Prescott's looking pretty good. All they can do is pass the ball, by the way. So he has to keep on passing. They're a very one-dimensional team. Prescott has 1,172 yards passing with 6 TDs. They have no run game. Ezekiel Elliott is washed. That guy Rico, I believe his name is, he's okay, but nothing to worry about. But big loss. They have no Parsons. Parsons got hurt during the Giants game, and they have no Lawrence. So their best defenders are in the front seven are out. So that's something you keep your eye on. Dak will have to get the ball out quick, just like Baker Mayfield did against the Eagles. So TJ Watt and Hayward don't just eat him up. So if Dak can get the ball out of his hands real quick, get it to his okay wide receivers, especially CeeDee Lamb, the Dallas can possibly get a win here. I think the Cowboys, they're not really good at rushing defense, but I think they can do good during this game because Najee Harris is awful, god awful. I do not know why the Pittsburgh Steelers still keep on putting him out there. I see no talent in the guy. I believe he's only averaging 3 points a carry, 3 yards a carry, that is, Harris. So they can stop the run. So they don't have to worry about that. That is, they have to stop the run against Harris. They should worry more about Justin Fields running the ball. Justin Fields can use his legs and do some damage. But don't worry about Harris. Worry about Fields, and you have a great chance of winning. Pittsburgh, like everybody knows, it's their defense. Their defense is really great. TJ Watt, Hayward. But let's really think about something. Are the Pittsburgh defense as good as people think? Think about it. Who have they played? Who have the Pittsburgh Steelers played? Okay, the way it looks to me, they played some crappy offenses. They played the Chargers and Broncos. Bo Nix and Herbert. Herbert has no weapons. He has 2 running backs. That's it. Broncos, arguably the worst offense in the league. So when your defense plays against those 2 teams, you're going to look good. Now, they played against the Atlanta Falcons, and they won 18-10. But Kirk is just now, in Week 5, pitting a good offense together. And he did that against the Buccaneers. But the Buccaneers defense is not that great either. So I think that's an outlier. Kirk, new team, trying to pit it together, first week. So, no, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers defense is a little hyped up. Now, they still have a lot of great players in that team. But the numbers are showing, they're not showing the opponents they played against, which is not great opponents. They're 22nd in the passing, so they're not really passing the ball too well, but that's not what they're known for. They're known for their rushing and defense. I think that they need to use Fields' legs. I think that game against the Colts was, I don't know. I don't really trust Fields. I don't care what anybody says. He's having a decent year. I will give him that. He has 830 yards passing with 3 touchdowns, so that's decent. And Pickens has 284 yards, no touchdowns. And Najee Harris is garbage, 228 yards rushing and no touchdowns. So I think they needed to worry about Fields' legs and, more than anything. And the Cowboys can have a chance if they could just stop Fields from rushing the ball. The Cowboys are allowing the 6th most yards per game on the ground. So, like I said, that's not good, but they're playing against a team that can't rush the ball whatsoever. In my opinion, if this was Russell Wilson, I think they wouldn't have that many rushing yards. So this is tough. I think the Cowboys, I hate the Cowboys as an Eagles fan, but I think that this is going to be a sneaky win by them. I think that CeeDee Lamb's going to feast a little bit. Ferguson's going to feast up. But Cooks is not playing, just to let you know. But I think with them now have to worry about the run that much from Harris, and they just focus on Justin Fields, they can win this game. So with a surprising upset, I am taking the Cowboys plus the points. And I think this will probably be for the over-under. I'm not going to bet the over-under, but if I had to choose, I would lean more towards the under. But give me the Cowboys plus the points. Get it where you can. It's 2.5 right now, but if you get 3 and 3.5, take it. So give me the Cowboys. In our last game of the week, Monday Night Football, we have the overrated Saints against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, Kansas City, they lose Rice, which is bad hit on them, and they're just winning a lot of close games. Chargers, Bengals, Ravens. And the Saints, they lost to the Falcons in a game they lost themselves with bonehead moves, with a muff punt and a pick that just hit off the guy and he got an interception. The Chiefs are just not being the Chiefs. They don't. Mahomes is 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, I believe. They're really missing Pacheco. He's gonna be out more games. So they lose their best weapons to Pacheco and Rice. Now everybody's saying it's the Kansas City. It's Kansas City. They did it last year. Well, last year they had Pacheco in the end, and Kelsey had more pep to his step. Kelsey is not looking so good. He's looking a bit slower. They do have Worthy, good pickup by them. I see a lot more. I'm going to see a lot more probably throws his way in slants, maybe some screens to get him out in open space. And they're probably going to use Juju more. Not bad. He's not so great, but he could be a solid weapon for them. And Hunt is questionable for the game, so pay attention to that. Hunt, the new acquisition, is questionable. I don't like any other guys steal. The rookie they got fumbled, and they just stopped using him. So this is tough. This is a tough game. Saints defense it's a good defense. They are underrated. They held the Eagles to 15 points, and the Falcons, they got a lucky win in that with 26 points with that last minute touchdown, or that last minute field goal, I should say. But they held the Dallas Cowboys at 19 points, and they held the Panthers for 10 points. Not saying much against the Panthers, but they still held them to minimum points. So with that, Derek Carr, not too bad. 824 yards passing, 6 TDs. Alvin Kamara having a good year, 362 yards rushing with 5 TDs and a lot of receptions and receiving yards. And Chris Olave with 265 yards and 1 touchdown. And they got Rashid Shaheed, got him going over the top. So that's another thing they have to watch out for. He could get over the top, Rashid Shaheed. And the Kansas City Chiefs, like I said, I think they're squeaking by. So I don't know if they're going to be able to squeak by this game without Rice and without Pacheco and Kelsey losing a step and Saints defense being formidable. So like I said, with that all being said, I think the Chiefs will probably win the game. I'm going to say they'll probably win the game. They are favored by... let me see here. The latest numbers are here right now. They are favored by 5.5 points, and the over/under being 42.5. So that being said, I'm going to take the Saints plus 5.5 and try to get it anywhere else you can, a higher number, 6, because, I know Andy Reid's the best coach in this game. I know Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in this league, but I don't think they're going to cover this number without their two best weapons, Rice and Pacheco, and with Kelsey losing a little speed to his step. So give me the Saints with their solid defense, and I think Alvin Kamara is going to have a good game this game. So give me the Saints plus the 5.5, or try to get any number you can. Well, guys, so far in the NFL, it has been a bloodbath out there for guys picking these games and their best bets. So many favorites are not covering. So many big numbers are not covering. So it's a slaughterhouse out there. I see so many people their predictions not coming through. But last week was my most profitable week. And I think this week, even though there's a lot of tight games this week, I think there's still some best bets here, and there's some money to be made. So these are my best bets. I like the 49ers to cover the number 7.5 against the Cardinals. The 49ers are just firing on all cylinders. They covered last week the big number. I think they covered again. All their weapons are healthy. Ayuk, Jennings, Samuels, Kittle, and Mason. Even though CMC is out, Mason is a great running back, top 5 in rushing yards. He's looking real great, good downhill runner. So I like the 49ers to cover against the Cardinals, and the Cardinals defense is just garbage. They can't sack the quarterback. So give me the Niners covering the 7.5. And then my second best bet, I like the Bengals and Ravens to go over the number. Bengals defense is not good. They can't get after the quarterback. Their secondary is shaky, and their rush defense is terrible. And that's bad against the Ravens. The Ravens, you saw what they did against the Bills. They ran it up and down like they're playing against a JV high school team. So I think that same thing will happen. I don't know if Henry's going to go over 200 yards, but I think the Ravens are going to put up good points. And the same with the Bengals. The Bengals have all their passing offense. Higgins is back. Chase is looking great, and Joe Burrow is completing over 70% of his passes. And the Ravens secondary is not that great. So give me the over on the Bengals and Ravens game, which I believe is 49 points right now. And for my third best bet, it's a bit ugly. They're not a good team, but I like them in this position. I think the Carolina is getting a little pumped up here, a little too much juice. Give me the Bears covering the 4 points against the Carolina Panthers. I think the Bears are finding out what they really are. Rush the ball and use Caleb Williams as some play action. All 3 of their wide receivers are healthy, so that's good. And their defense is still great. They still got a good defense. They got a good front 7. They're getting after the quarterback. So that's one thing they always have is a good defense. And that's something the Panthers can say. They have a terrible defense and other linebackers out for the season, Shaq Thomas, and they don't have their other best defender, Brown. He's out for the year too. And people are putting over 30 points against the Panthers this year. So give me the Bears covering the 4 points. I think they dominate the Panthers and they get to 3-2. Guys, that does it for my week 5 predictions. Hopefully we win some money here. You guys, your predictions go well, my predictions go well, because all these games look like they're going to be tight games. So it's going to be fun watching them. I can't wait. I'll be there with my 3 screens and all my iPads going at once, taking notes, and hopefully my bets go in. So please pay attention to my best bets, which I'm making in a separate video, and please pay attention to my MLB picks. I picked the 3 out of 4 wild card teams to come out. I predicted the Royals would beat the Baltimore Orioles. I predicted the Mets would beat the Brewers. And I predicted the Padres would beat the Braves. The only team I didn't get, I thought the Astros would beat the Tigers. That was a little biased because I'm an Astros fan. So pay attention to my MLB picks. And also look out for my video for my best bets for week 5, which I'll be making pretty soon here. So with that, let's have a profitable week. Tell me what your picks are, who you like, who your best bets, who do you love, who do you hate, what can I do to make this experience better for you? So guys, I love hearing from you. Thank you for watching this small channel. And as always, I will see you in the next one.